Okay, so you send over a really interesting mix of sources for this deep dive. We've got this video showing how someone's actually using Claude in their workflow.
Right, a day in the life kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then we also have the official announcement from Anthropic about their, well, their very latest
It's
models.
a great pairing, isn't it? You see the how and then the what that makes it possible.
Totally. So our plan today is to really unpack these sources, figure out what Claude can actually do right now, especially with these new models, Opus 4 and Sonnet 4, and explore this concept that keeps popping up. Claude is a virtual collaborator.
Yeah, we want to pull out the key stuff for you listening. Like, how are people actually using these models? Managing information, tackling those really complex tasks, fitting it into how you already work.
Right. The idea is to see how this might, help you manage things better, maybe learn more effectively.
And the big promise, reading between the lines of these sources, seems to be turning that daily information chaos into, like, a clear plan.
Or just drastically cutting down time on stuff that used to take forever, maybe hours or even weeks, down to minutes. That's the pitch, it seems. Okay, let's get into it.
Let's start with that video source. It features someone named Maggie, and she walks us through how she uses Claude throughout her workday. It's pretty integrated.
Okay, so it starts with her morning. How does she use Claude to, kick off the day?
Well, she uses it to basically get her bearings. It connects to her Google Workspace docs, email, Asana, the lot, and it analyzes everything. And what it does is it pulls out the important bits, compiles it all into this single organized report, shows her exactly what's on her plate, what's due, maybe what's changed overnight.
So instant clarity instead of digging through everything yourself.
Exactly. Saves her a ton of time just figuring out where to even begin.
Yeah, I can see that. That initial, what do I do first? Hurdle. Okay, then she moves on to preparing for a meeting, something about educational research. This example sounded really impactful.
It really is. This is where she taps into what the source calls the latest model's in-depth research capabilities. She gives Claude a meeting proposal doc and asks it to do a full literature review, hitting specific research questions they need answers to.
And she compares this to her old academic days, right? What was the contrast?
Huge. She says back then, just finding the relevant papers could take half a day.
Just finding them?
Yeah, and then actually reading, digesting, synthesizing them, weeks.
Wow.
But Claude basically does that heavy lifting, finding, reading, summarizing, and gives her back a report. So it completely flips her role.
How so?
Instead of getting bogged down in the weeds of gathering info, Claude handles that. It frees her up to focus on the big picture, the strategy, the analysis for the team. Lets her use her brain for the uniquely human parts.
Okay, so managing information, doing research, but the sources suggest it goes beyond that, into actually doing tasks, like project stuff.
Yes, exactly. The video then shows her tackling a big priority, planning their developer conference, Code with Claude. They need a prototype, an order management system for some pop-up cafe at the event.
Right, building a web app prototype. Normally, that's weeks of coding time for an engineering team, isn't it?
For sure. But here, she uses Claude Code. She talks about it like delegating execution.
Delegating execution.
Yeah. So the main engineering team doesn't get sidetracked building this temporary thing. They stay focused on the core Claude Code product for users.
Okay. And frees her up, too.
Right. She gets more time to talk to actual customers, get feedback for the roadmap, that kind of thing.
So how does it work in the video? What does she actually do?
She shows it gives Claude Code the context, the requirements, drops in some design mockups, and then Claude generates this step-by-step plan, like a to-do list. Build the UI, set up the database, etc. And you actually see it kind of checking things off as it completes them.
So it's not just suggesting code, it's building it.
The end result is a working prototype, ready for testing, done really quickly. It implies it handled, a whole sequence of technical steps.
Okay, that's more than just code snippets. It's managing and running with initial development tasks based on requirements.
Which leads really well into the last example from the video, her end-of-day routine. Taking documentation, like a PRD, a product requirements document.
Right, the blueprint for what to build.
Exactly, and turning that into actual concrete tasks for the team.
And she uses an integration for this with Asana.
Yeah, Claude connected to Asana via something called Remote MCP. She basically tells Claude, read this PRD, make tasks.
And it does.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
Claude reads the document, understands what's needed, and then creates structured tasks right inside Asana. It assigns them to people, sets deadlines based on their sprint schedule, adds metadata, files them correctly. The works.
That sounds incredibly efficient.
It really does. She says what used to eat up her whole evening, manually breaking down PRDs and creating tasks, now takes minutes. It really shows Claude not just understanding complex info, but then acting on it through her other tools. Intelligence meeting action.
Okay, so those are some powerful real-world examples. Now let's switch gears to that other source, the official announcement. This is where we get into the tech, the models themselves.
Right. This is the Anthropic blog post from May 22nd, 2025, announcing Claude Opus 4 and Claude Sonnet 4.
And the headline claims are pretty big, setting new standards for coding, reasoning, AI agents.
Let's break down Opus 4 first. They're calling it their most powerful model ever and flat out claiming it's the world's best coding model.
Bold claim. Do they back it up?
They cite benchmarks. It leads on SWB Bench, that's a big one, for testing real-world coding tasks like fixing bugs, scoring 72.5%. And also on Terminal Bench, which is about command line stuff, at 43.2%.
Okay, so benchmark wins. Anything else about Opus 4?
They really emphasize its ability to perform complex tasks over a long time, saying it can work continuously for several hours.
Several hours. That's different.
Yeah, and they give this example from Rakuten. They had Opus 4 work on a tricky open source refactoring task, and it ran independently for 7 hours.
7 hours autonomously working on code.
That's what the source claims. Shows endurance and focus, not just quick bursts of skill.
Okay, that's Opus 4. What about Sonnet 4?
Sonnet 4 is positioned as a significant upgrade to the previous Sonnet 3.7, still offers superior coding and reasoning, but it's also noted for responding more precisely to instructions.
And its coding scores.
Also state-of-the-art, actually, 72.7% on that same SWE bench, so really capable there, too.
Huh. So both top tier at coding, what's the difference then?
Sonnet 4 seems to be about balancing that high performance with efficiency, making it great for those everyday high-volume tasks like Maggie's morning report or task creation.
Oh, okay. Like the workhorse model.
Kind of. They quote a company, iGent, saying it drastically improved problem-solving and navigating code bases for them, cut navigation errors from 20% down to almost zero. So that precision matters in practice.
Gotcha. And the announcement also mentioned their hybrid models, offering instant responses and extended thinking.
Exactly. Quick answers when you need them, deeper processing for the hard stuff.
Okay, so these models sound powerful. But what exactly are the new technical upgrades that let them do things like build prototypes or act more like agents? What's under the hood?
Good question. The announcement highlights a few key things. First, this new beta feature, extended thinking with tool use.
Tool use, like searching the web.
Exactly. Or running code, or using other specific tools. Both Opus 4 and Sonnet 4 can now decide during their thinking process, hey, I need more info, or I need to test this code, and actually go use a tool. They can cycle between reasoning and using tools.
Okay, that makes sense for complex tasks.
And they can even use multiple tools in parallel. So if a task needs, say, a web search and a calculation, it might happen simultaneously, faster, more efficient.
Right. What else?
This next one feels really key for that virtual collaborator idea. Much better memory.
Memory. How so?
When developers allow it using specific APIs like the Files API and an MCP connector, which lets Claude securely see local files, the models are way better at remembering things. They can extract and save key facts to keep track of context and build up tacit knowledge over time.
Tacit knowledge, like learning from experience.
Kind of. They give this amazing example. Opus 4 apparently got good at creating and maintaining its own memory files. They even show notes it took while playing Pokemon to build itself a navigation guide.
It learned to play Pokemon by taking notes.
That's the implication. It sounds fun, but it shows a core capability. Learn, remember context across sessions, build cumulative understanding. That's crucial for long-term collaboration, way beyond simple chatbots.
Yeah, that moves it from stateless requests to something that actually builds context with you. That's a big shift.
Definitely. They also mentioned the models are much less likely, 65% less likely than Sonnet 3.7 to take shortcuts on tasks where that could lead to bad results. So aiming for more reliability.
Good. Following instructions properly.
And there's something called thinking summaries. Basically, if the model's internal thought process gets really long, it can use a smaller model to summarize how it got there. Apparently only needed about 5% of the time. Plus a developer mode to see the raw thoughts if you want.
Okay, so Tool use, parallel execution, much better memory, more reliability. These really do sound like the building blocks for that agent-like behavior, the collaborator idea.
Totally. And connecting back to developers, the Claude Code stuff isn't just about the model's power, it's about integrating it right into how they work.
Right. The announcement said Claude Code is now generally available GA.
Yep, out of research preview based on positive feedback.
And they're releasing tools to make it fit into the workflow.
Exactly. There's an SDK, a software development kit, so developers can build their own custom AI agents using the same core tech.
Okay, build your own agents. Cool.
Plus, beta IDE extensions. For VS Code, JetBrains the popular coding environments. These show Claude's code suggestions right inside your files. Makes reviews super easy.
Inline suggestions. Nice.
And a beta GitHub integration. You can actually tag Claude Code on a pull request, a proposed code change, and ask it to respond to a reviewer's comment, fix an error the automated tests found, or make changes right there in the standard workflow.
So it's like another team member you can add at mention on GitHub.
Pretty much. It's designed to be right there where developers are already working. Supported by things like the code execution tool, that file access connector, the Files API, and even prompt caching for an hour to keep context during a session.
Okay, so if people listening are keen to try this, how do they get access?
The post lays it out. Opus 4, Sonnet 4, and that extended thinking stuff are in the Pro, Max, Team, and Enterprise plans.
And Sonnet 4.
Sonnet 4 is also available for free users, which is great.
And it's not just on Claude's own website or app.
No, they're available through the Anthropic API, but also on Amazon Bedrock and Google Cloud's Vertex AI platform, so accessible via major cloud providers too.
What about pricing? Did they mention that?
Yeah, they said pricing is staying consistent with the previous models. For Opus 4, it's $15 per $1 million input tokens, $75 per $1 million output. For Sonnet 4, it's $3 input, $15 output.
Okay, good to know. Consistent pricing.
And they make a point of mentioning their continued focus on safety, hitting ASL3 standards, AI safety level 3, which points to serious controls.
Right. So wrapping it all up, the vision seems clear. These models are a big stride towards that virtual collaborator, something that can maintain context, stay focused on complex jobs, and really change how work gets done.
Absolutely. What we've pulled from these sources today is this picture of Claude, especially with Opus 4 and Sonnet 4, being used for really practical workflow integrated tasks.
Yeah, from organizing your morning and doing past research to actually building code prototypes and automating project management right inside tools like Asana or GitHub.
And the tech enabling it. It's that strong coding and reasoning, the new tool use during thinking, that much improved memory creating tacit knowledge, and the deep integration into developers and others' workflows.
It really shows these AI tools maturing, moving way beyond simple chatbots. They're becoming these capable assistants, maybe even collaborators, handling complex multi-step work and freeing you up significantly.
Yeah, freeing you up for the human stuff strategy, creativity, complex problem solving.
So thinking about that really interesting detail, Opus 4 creating memory files while playing Pokemon, learning and adapting. It leaves us with a question, doesn't it?
Definitely.
How might our whole relationship with information, with work, with our tools, how might that fundamentally change when these tools can not just process information, but actively remember, learn from interacting with us, and build up their own tacit knowledge right alongside us, almost like a human apprentice or colleague? What does that future of work look like?